Should this veteran starter be on the Red Sox radar this offseason? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and one important thing to remember as we get into the Red Sox offseason, specifically when we're talking about trades, is the difference in availability of players, right? It's awesome to think about the Red Sox trading for some crazy great starter, but if they're not available, it's not going to happen. And on the other side, too, opportunities are going to become available for the Boston Red Sox, like this possible one that we're talking about today, because this week, the Cardinals decided that they were going to shop their best pitcher in 2024. So what we're going to do in today's videos, we're going to talk about this guy. We're going to talk about what he could mean for the Red Sox, why they should be interested in him. We're going to talk about some reasons why they shouldn't be interested in him, what it would take to get him, and ultimately whether or not this is something the Red Sox should/would do. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. So the reason we are talking about this today is because of an article from Bob Nightingale wherein he says that the Cardinals are planning to shop veteran starter Sonny Gray to reduce their payroll heading into 2025. Another reason why we're making this video is because he specifically mentions the Boston Red Sox as being a team that could be a possible fit for this veteran starter. And there's a couple of reasons why the Red Sox were mentioned here. The first reason is because Gray could be a top half of the rotation pitcher here in Boston. This season was pretty solid. He had 3.84 ERA with an even lower 3.12 FIP, meaning he was pitching better than his ERA leads on. He increased his strikeout rate to 11 per 9 innings this season, which is the second highest of his career, and walked just 2.1 per 9 innings for a 1.088 whip, basically meaning that for every inning he pitched, just over one batter reached base. That's a pretty solid whip for a starting pitcher, and that's also the third lowest of his career for a 109 ERA plus, almost 10% above league average production. He's also 1 year removed from a second place Cy Young finish where he had a 2.79 ERA, a league leading 2.83 FIP, and a league leading 0.4 home runs per 9 for a 157 ERA plus, about 57% better than the average pitcher in the league. And overall, these statistics have been fairly in line with what he's done throughout his career, because in 12 seasons at the big league level, there may be some seasons that stick out here and there that really didn't go well for Sonny Gray, but overall, he's been pretty consistently a really solid pitcher at the big league level, to the tune of a 3.51 ERA, a 3.53 FIP, and a 1.193 whip for a 120 ERA plus. So in those 12 years, he's been about 20% better than the average major league pitcher. Those are some really solid statistics for Sonny Gray. So when we're looking at reasons why the Red Sox could possibly want to trade for a guy like Sonny Gray, the answer is fairly obvious, and that is the fact that he could come in here and be a top half of the rotation type starter. Now, that doesn't mean he's an ace by any means, but a guy who's a 2 or a 3, constantly giving you some innings at the big league level, giving you quality innings at the big league level, could absolutely be a positive for the Boston Red Sox, and it does a couple of things. The first thing it does is, one, give you that production on the mound, right? Obviously, statistically, that would help the Boston Red Sox. They had a solid rotation overall this season, but getting a guy in here who's been solid throughout his career just makes that rotation a little bit better. On top of that, he also brings veteran leadership to a Red Sox team that doesn't have a ton right now, right? You've got Lucas Giolito coming back, and he's been in the league for a while, certainly a veteran type presence, but at the same time too, he's also a guy who's dealing with his own stuff. He didn't finish his last season very well. This season, he's been injured the entire time. He's trying to come back from injury, reprove that he can pitch in Major League Baseball. It's not exactly the leadership type you want on the Boston Red Sox. Now, that doesn't mean Lucas Giolito is a bad leader. I'm just saying he's got his own stuff going on right now. Bringing in Sonny Gray could give some legitimate, successful veteran leadership for guys like Houck, Crawford, or Bayo. And on top of that, the third thing that this does is it pushes the bullpen into a better spot. By getting a starting pitcher in here that is going to definitely be in your rotation, it allows you to move one of these guys who you would consider a back end of the rotation type piece into the bullpen, which naturally is going to make it a bit better, right? You're going to have to put someone in that bullpen, and if they were successful-ish in the rotation, they're probably going to be pretty solid in the bullpen as well. And as we know, the bullpen's going to be a very important part of getting the Red Sox back to competition in 2025. So when you're looking at it, you're saying, yeah, there are a couple of reasons here why Sonny Gray could fit with the Boston Red Sox, and it gets even better when you talk about the circumstances of him being traded, because the Cardinals right now have pretty much announced that they're going into a full rebuild. The reason they are putting Sonny Gray onto the market is because they want to save some money coming into 2025. They're placing Chaim Bloom as president of baseball operations going into 26 as well. They're ready to really sort of revamp this entire system, and what that means is the Red Sox could take advantage of a team about to go into a full rebuild. Because the Cardinals are trying to shed salary, the value of Sonny Gray goes down a lot. If they're unwilling to take on any of his contract, the Red Sox could get him for pretty cheap. You're probably looking at acquiring Sonny Gray for almost next to nothing. I'm talking like Manuel Valdez straight up for Sonny Gray, or even better, a lower level prospect that really hasn't touched high A or double A yet, because of the fact that the Cardinals are really trying to focus on the next few years as opposed to this year and the year after. So not only does Sonny Gray benefit you in terms of statistics and leadership, it's also not going to cost a lot to get him. So there are a lot of positives here for Sonny Gray, and I do think it does make some sense for this Red Sox team. The problem here is that there's also some risk/potential negatives as well that make this much more complicated. But before we get into that, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps this video out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Thank you all very much for taking a second in doing so. Let's get into some potential negatives and ultimately talk about whether or not this is a good move. I think the first and ultimately the biggest wrench here in the conversation with Sonny Gray is his age. He's 34 years old. He's going into his age 35 season next year, and there are a couple of reasons why this could really prevent the Red Sox from going after him. The first is obviously the injury risk. Now, Sonny Gray himself does have a pretty extensive injury history in Major League Baseball. Now, to be honestly totally fair to Sonny Gray, you're probably not going to find a single free agent or trade pitcher on the market that doesn't have an injury history, right? It's just part of the game at this point that starting pitchers are going to have an history of injuries. But the problem with that is that as he continues to age, that injury risk continues to increase exponentially, especially as he gets towards 40 years old. It's going to get a bit more difficult for him every single year to get through an entire season fully healthy. And obviously, as a Red Sox team that has dealt with some major injuries over the last couple of years, and that being a big part of why the Red Sox haven't been able to be competitive these last couple of years, that is an absolutely massive turnoff. The other problem with him being 35, 36 years old with this deal and with the contract attached to him is the fact that he is going to continue to sort of regress as he gets towards the back half of his career, right? You're not going to be getting prime Sonny Gray in this deal. You're going to be getting back half, slightly over the hill Sonny Gray as he continues to go towards retirement. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't be effective, but I'm saying if you're looking for peak performance, if you're looking for guys who are going to be able to continue to consistently impact a rotation at the highest possible level, Sonny Gray may not end up being that guy. He could still be a solid pitcher, but he's probably not going to get better as he gets older. And the other big wrench attached to this is the contract itself, because for the next 2 years minimum, including 25 and 26, Sonny Gray is owed $25 million a season, at least towards the luxury tax. It's actually a bit more when you consider full cash in. That is a large lump sum of money to give to someone who's going to be 37 by the end of this contract, basically pushing towards 40. Now, there is a possibility with the Cardinals simply trying to shed as much salary as humanly possible and get rid of this guy that they end up getting a bit desperate and attach, let's say, $10 million a year to his contract. All of a sudden, that money and the risk involved do absolutely become a bit more digestible. But again, that's not a guarantee guarantee, right? If we're just simply looking at Sonny Gray, the person being traded, you're obviously taking on most, if not all, of that salary, and it obviously pretty immediately becomes a really big negative impact on whether or not this should be a target for the Boston Red Sox. Now, one of the smaller wrenches I want to talk about, now I don't know if this is actually going to end up being a wrench if the Red Sox do end up interested, but it's Chaim Bloom's role in all of this. He will be taking over president of baseball operations going into the 2026 season. He's going to be the guy for the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, things obviously didn't end super well with the Red Sox, and as he goes towards really taking over the Cardinals organization here, it's probably not something he wants to do in terms of trading with the Boston Red Sox, right? He's probably not too keen on giving the Red Sox anything that could help them succeed, especially with him coming from that organization or coming from this organization and it ending not super well. Now, I could completely be blowing this out of the water, so that's why I'm saying it could be a slight wrench in here. I don't really know if that's going to be the case. So if you take a look at everything overall with Sonny Gray, to ultimately come to the decision of whether or not this should be someone on the Red Sox radar, I'm kind of in between here. I don't know if it would be a good or bad idea for this Red Sox team. I think on the surface, acquiring this guy, especially if it's going to cost you next to nothing because the Cardinals are just simply trying to shed salary, isn't a bad idea at all. He's a solid pitcher. He could end up being a real positive for this Red Sox rotation. I just personally think with looking at what the Red Sox have in their arsenal right now in terms of value on the trade market, they could aim a bit higher, right? If they went out there this offseason and simply just got Sonny Gray, I don't think any of us are truly satisfied to the level that we are hoping to be satisfied this offseason. I think if the Red Sox were to go out there, they were to get a young controllable starter, and then they were to say, hey, maybe we just take advantage of this situation, toss him maybe someone who we don't think is going to impact this Red Sox team, and just get him as sort of a subsequent move to a larger move, then I think this is much more digestible. I think I like it a whole lot more. But if this is the main guy, if this is the dude that they say, yep, this is the guy that's going to come in and fix this rotation, well, we've heard that before, right? We heard that when they signed Corey Kluber, traded for James Paxton, when they relied on Chris Sale, who was injured basically the entirety of his Red Sox tenure, right? They were relying on guys who just simply were getting too old to be reliable, and I don't want that to happen again, especially in a year where they're supposed to compete. So I'm really on the fence with this Sonny Gray situation. I think there's positives, I think there's negatives, but ultimately, I think the only way I'm satisfied if the Red Sox go after this guy is if they end up doing this as a subsequent move, as a secondary move, as sort of a second option here for the Red Sox in their rotation. Now, on top of that, too, the contract absolutely scares the hell out of me. Paying someone $25 million until they're almost 40 years old and not really a generational talent or anything absolutely terrifies me, and I think it would absolutely terrify the Red Sox as well. So ultimately, I'm not entirely sure that the Red Sox are putting Sonny Gray on their radar. Again, I think the only way that this works is as a secondary move where the Cardinals pick up a whole lot of this contract, which I just simply don't see happening. But it is an interesting conversation to talk about sort of what the Red Sox are targeting in terms of what they want to bring in for this rotation, for this bullpen. Is it some of these older veteran arms that they could take advantage of? Is it one of these younger controllable arms that they are going to have to pay arm and a limb for, but make it worth it because of the value return? I don't really know what the Red Sox have in store, but this could be our first hint as to what it might be. But that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think? Would you go after Sonny Gray if you were the Boston Red Sox? What would you give up? And what would it take for you to be okay with a move like Sonny Gray? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Again, it simply helps this video out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Don't forget, if you want to listen instead of watch these episodes, all you got to do is head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the Red Seats.